Hi, everyone. I'm Crystal, and I host the podcast Alternative Interests with my best friend, Elle. We're Washington natives that love true crime, the supernatural, and all things weird, dark, and spooky. Join us every week as we take turns sharing our own twists on the garbage humans that commit crimes, or a paranormal story that we have been obsessing over. Whatever topic we cover, this show is sure to capture all of your alternative interests. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Alright, so let it be quiet for a second, and then I'll pick it back up.
Shame if somebody...
I don't give a shit. Oh yeah, no. If I had a vape, I'd be doing it the whole time, so don't worry.
Sorry, I have to get mine in too.
I'm leaving this in. I'm leaving this in. I don't care. I'm probably not, but it makes me laugh. Anyways, so... You know, like I said, the monkeys, they were bullied by all their other peers whenever they were reintroduced to the other monkeys in captivity who did not go through the experiments. 2 of them would starve themselves. When the 6-month isolate monkeys were taken out, they were noted as being so devastated that Harlow and his colleagues thought that those in for a year couldn't get any worse. And they were wrong. After a year, those monkeys were psychologically and socially obliterated, incapable of almost any interaction with other monkeys, and if they didn't starve themselves to death, they grew up isolating themselves and were unable to form any social ties. Also, I would like to just point out of the 5-6 websites that I went to confirm this fact, each and every single one of them did say psychologically and socially obliterated, so it's kind of...
that was what was written in the paper, huh? You can't really change that.
No, but it's just like, it really goes to show just how fucked these monkeys were, you know. Little also information I tried to find some more about. Suomi, the guy, or Suomi, the guy who helped Harlow design the Pit of Despair apparatus, actually in 1970 would place even more monkeys into these pits. And it was noted as even the happiest monkeys that went in came out damaged.
Wow.
Yeah. It didn't matter when, how old they were, or what time. It's proven that this type of isolation just kills you, just mentally, if not physically.
Sounds like school.
It does sound like school.
Doesn't it? Like, the American school system? That's exactly
Very
what it's
much
like.
so. Just
straight up, when I was in kindergarten, I was in trouble so often that they made a room in my school that was an empty broom closet. They put a single desk in there, a single chair, pen, paper. That was it.
And the sad truth is, like, up until recently, I would hear people talk about this, or I'd see it online, and I wouldn't believe it. But obviously, after you telling me this, and knowing, like, there's been massive reports about changing school policies and like that, because so many schools had dedicated rooms like this that were padded and everything.
Mine wasn't padded.
They had padded rooms for other kids, because, like, they didn't know how to deal with autistic kids. You know, they just threw them into this room, which doesn't help them at all. You know, it blows my mind that we treated our school systems more like an insane asylum in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know?
And a lot of that stuff still, like, trickled.
Yeah, it's still here now. There's still schools that don't reform.
Oh, my favorite thing is instead of the room, what you do now is you pick up your desk and you put it in the fucking hallway. Have you, like, did your teachers ever do that to you in, like, high school? They'd be like, pick up your desk and go into the hallway, like...
That's what they did to me.
Cool, because I'm not here to learn. No. I'm here to sit in the hallway.
I didn't even get that. They didn't give me a desk. They just said, get your shit and get out.
Jesus.
They never sent me to the principal's office. They just said, get your shit and get out. I don't care.
School's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And comparatively, I actually grew up in a pretty good school, you know, compared to most of the other places in Texas.
It really feels like it's like, oh, we can't figure out what to do with this kid. Let's put him in the electric chair. Maybe
right? Oh, God, which is a fucked up story for another day. You don't realize that that's a real thing that happened.
Oh, I was just kidding.
No, that's a real thing that happened. But, like I said, it's a story for another day.
My high school that I went to is famous. The one that I went to my freshman year, Creek.
Oh, God.
Creek? You went to Creek?
I went to Creek.
I'm a late kid, so...
So, for those who don't know...
The year before I was admitted to Creek, I only went there for 1 year, my freshman year. The year before that, there were gang stabbings in the high school. Mm-hmm. Some kids took some safety scissors and stabbed 3 students in the neck. One of them died. Also, there are many gravestones and statues on the Clear Creek
campus.
for the students that have either gotten in a car crash on campus or have died in school due to violent crimes.
See, this is why I like Pearland, where anytime that shit happens, we just kind of brush it under the rug. We don't talk about it. We don't, no, because we got our football team to worry about. Welcome to Texas.
That's funny. I just gotta say though, I remember, I think I went to Creek for my for summer school one time. The whole place was weird. I got weird vibes from it.
Did you go into the elevator?
No.
No? It smells like sex. Straight up. Like, there's no other word to describe the smell in the elevators other than sex.
Alright, but I remember I went to the cafeteria, right? And I came from a different school. Yeah. And there were kids that are from Creek. And I was just like, hey guys, how's it going? It's like, hey, how's it going? Right? And we started talking, and they started telling me about the school. And they were like, did you know there were riots here? And I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, I got ISS while I was at Creek for throwing a desk at some kids. One of them got knocked out, so I got in a lot of trouble. But anyways, while I was in ISS, we got brought to the cafeteria to eat our lunch, and one kid started to drink their milk, and they were like, Jell-O! And we all freaked out, right? Like, what do you mean Jell-O? You have a milk carton in your hand. So he pours out the milk onto his tray, and it was Jell-O!
Oh.
It was milk, but it was congealed. Like, turning into butter.
Well,
you could shake the tray and it wouldn't splash.
Gabs, as much as I'm enjoying this story, I got a few bits of information to go to before we talk about some more school drama.
Well, I feel like the lesson in this is
oh god,
sometimes the monkeys might be more civilized than us.
Yeah, well, you say that, let me explain what happened to some of these when they grew up.
Oh boy.
So, when the monkeys weren't allowed to die, and yes, I'm phrasing that intentionally, when they weren't allowed to die, they were shown to have absolutely no parental skills. They had no desires to take care of children that they would have and whatnot. Which also, side note, the way that these monkeys had to have children is fucked up because artificial insemination wasn't a thing at this point in time. It hadn't yet been invented. So you know how they got these monkeys pregnant? They literally designed...
Robots.
That would have even been better. No. They designed a literal rape rack designed to force the monkeys in a more seductive, natural mating position, and they would let the male monkeys come in, do their thing. It didn't matter. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's not even the worst of it. It's not. We're getting to what I consider the worst part. Okay? Because yes, these female isolates would then, conceive, and they would be forced to have children and everything, and they would be tested on their parental responses. Well, oh god, this is actually hard to read right now. As much as they were unable to reproduce on their own, like I said, their parental skills just were non-existent. They would either abuse or neglect them outright, with Harlow writing, quote, "Not even in our most devious dreams could we have designed a surrogate as evil as these real monkey mothers were," unquote. Most just ignored their children, but in one case, one monkey stood out by holding her baby's face against the floor and chewed off its fingers and feet while it was alive and screaming until it bled to death. Another just simply crushed its head with their own hands. Yeah.
I guess they thought they were being kind so that their babies didn't have to live through what they lived through.
I'm guessing they didn't care because they don't know anything except isolation and just nothingness.
I know, but if I was a mother, I would be like, I don't want my kid to live through this. Don't want my kid to live through this.
You see, his experiments would go on to show the importance of, a mother-child connection and the necessity for that affection time, disproving the idea of limited access to your children and stuff developing. But overall, the reason I say that fact alone is the worst to me is because I think when I look at all these facts and everything and I try to digest it and process it, I look at it almost as if I mentally think I was there, like a memory almost. So I can literally, it's weird to explain, but I imagine a literal monkey, and it's as visceral as you could see it in real life. An actual monkey literally chewing off the digits and just the details that I can imagine just is so unsettling. But I guess I've also watched one too many horror movies growing up.
Well, I mean, I don't know. But
I don't know. It's just something about ripping off the limbs with your own teeth.
Yeah, that's a little nuts. But I mean, we as humans have actually gone through something sort of like that before. During the plague, mothers would drown their children so they wouldn't grow up and get the plague.
I mean, that's fair, and I understand that, but again, I don't mean to say that's fair. It's just...
It's not.
No, but I get the mentality. I understand the reasoning and the fear. But with monkeys, they don't have as developed processing as we do. No animal does. Yes, there are animals that are smart, and they're very close to us, but compared cognitively, the ability to think as far as we do is not there. With that being said, I don't know what the reasoning is for these monkeys doing what they did. They aren't like Coco, where they learn sign language and can give us an idea of what's going on in their brain. But the evidence is clear. When you have absolutely no interaction with your kind, no developmental, stability, no understanding on the importance of nurturing, that mother-child bond, it leads to some very fucked up results.
I can tell you what my theory is.
What's up?
Why they did it? I'm just thinking about it like this: if a mother raises a child and the child lives with its mother, it's probably gonna learn a few things about taking care of others, and it's gonna grow some sympathy. You become attached to your mother, mother becomes attached to you, and it gets shared. Now, let's say there's none of that, right?
Okay.
It's pure darkness in your life, and you have a child. What's that child going to be to you? You never had attachment. You've never felt that love before.
Well,
it's scary.
It's scary.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is, I would look at that and not feeling anything towards it, and just hearing it cry, I'd want to crush its head open. Because I don't understand what love is.
I mean, I get it, but I guess I should clarify what I mean. It's like, I don't think there was any cognitive reasoning for why they did what they did. It was more of a...
there is. I think you're not giving them enough credit.
No, well, this is where psychology is interpreted sometimes. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm not against believing that there was some actual cognitive reasoning. I just don't think it was there. I think this is more, in part, behavior that they failed to learn. So like Vlad said, they don't know how to react. And so they react just trying to protect themselves, which means even if it's their children, they don't know what that is, they don't know how to respond to it, and they'd rather it be gone forever. I think it was more of an instinctual reaction than a cognitive one. But I'm not the psychologist. I'm not the one who knows that. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. But these studies, as horrific as they were, would never pass a Belmont report today. Never, which for those who don't know is basically the ethical standards which we hold experiments to now to make sure, anything being observed or studied, is treated humanely and fair. It's a big problem like we talked about in the Tuskegee experiment last week where a bunch of almost 600 men didn't even know the study that they were being participating in. They weren't given aid or anything. They were lied to for over 40 years. Crazy shit. Again, another experiment, or in this case, a study that would not pass a Belmont report because of just the inhumane and unethical ways that they would find these men and coerce them to do these different parts of the studies. I mean, they would get spinal taps, for God's sakes. I've never gotten one, but I can imagine it is not a pleasant thing. No, it is a big-ass needle going into your spine. It doesn't compare, but I just remember that scene from The Incredible Hulk where you have the guy who plays Abomination. I forget the actor's name off the top of my head, but he's so good. There's a scene in there where he's getting the super soldier serum, and they have these thick needles, and they just drive into his spine, and his facial reaction is just in pain and just getting twisted. That's what I imagine. That's the closest I have to imagining this.
I think, if anything, the movie The Theory of Everything about Stephen Hawking's life,
I fell asleep
when they
in
spinal tapped
I fell
him
asleep
would
before
probably be the closest thing.
Yeah.
They sedate you to do that. You're not like fully conscious. They're gonna.
But no, these men that I was talking about in the Tuskegee experiment, no anesthesia. Yeah. They were awake the whole time. Oh yeah, everything. They were not, because there was a long held belief that black people couldn't feel pain. That's why. But sorry if you guys can hear that. We got some cats running around, but it's okay. They're just having some fun.
No, I think one of them's trying to kill the other, but
well, it happens. It's cats. One's always going to be trying to be playful. The other one's going to be annoyed. That's how it usually happens.
Usually the younger one is trying to be playful.
But
Anyways.
But yeah, no, that was Harry Harlow and his Pit of Despair and Fucked Up Monkeys. There's a lot more experimentation that went on, but those were the big ones that stood out, the big ones that, made the pioneering study of maternal attachment and depression and, the theory of development and everything in children. This was the experiment that spurred all that on. But like I said, it would never be, passed today. It would never be, considered by the Board of Psychology today, just for obvious reasons. It reminds me almost to, what was it? It was an experiment that involved a kid that happened in like the 1910s where they were trying to learn about, about fears and how they develop in children and adults and everything. I believe the kid's name was nicknamed like Little Abel or something like that. And what they would do for that experiment is that they would give the kid a mice, right? Soft, play with it, whatever, it's fine. But anytime the kid would get close to the mice, they would like hit a gong or make a really loud sound to scare the kid. So this would condition him to be afraid of the rat. And as time would go on, he wouldn't even need to like get close to the rat. As soon as he saw it, the kid started freaking out and crying. Fucked up thing that happened is the mother never gave consent. The mother never knew what the experiment was doing or had any idea what they were intending to do, and they never reversed this problem. We don't know what happened to Little Abel. We don't know what his real name was. We don't know where he died, how he lived with this fear growing up. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. One of my biggest fears is buzzing noises. All right. You're in for a treat.
As soon as you said that, the first thing that pops in my head was the buzzer noise from Family Feud.
No, not buzzer noises. Buzzing, like bugs flying.
Yeah.
That kind of buzzing, like grasshopper noises.
Okay.
And here's why. All right, ready? I was 4 years old. Disney World.
No,
the Tree of Life. Inside the Tree of Life, they play a Bug's Life 4D movie.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm a short-ass, tiny little 4-year-old sitting in this big seat. I don't know if any of you guys listening have ever been to a 4D movie, but there's usually a little puncher in the back.
Yes.
In the back of the chair that will pop out during a part of the movie where you're grabbed or hit or something like that. My head was where that was.
Yeah, so I can see, yeah.
So they're playing this movie, and all of a sudden grasshopper noises, and then bam! I'm hit in the back of the head like a gunshot. This thing shot out so fast because it's meant for your back.
Yeah.
Nerves in it.
I kind of wonder if they ever.
I'm so scared of buzzing noises, and I could never figure out why until my mom told me about that.
Wow.
Well, it's not this. I don't think it's this. Oh. So okay, one time when I was a kid, I was just I was at my cousin's house and they had a swing. I started playing in the swing and everything, just enjoying myself by myself. By the way, there was nobody around. It was just me. I'm on the swing, and then all of a sudden I feel a sharp pain in the back of my neck, right back here, and it was a big black wasp. And it was the worst pain I've ever had, right in the back of my neck. And ever since that day, anytime I see a wasp, I freak out. Or anything that even remotely looks like a wasp.
Oh, man. Even if a leaf falls in a weird way, I'll freak out. Aaron knows
I've seen
shove a bitch out of the way to get away.
You shoved me once!
Because I feel like you don't understand, like, the fear until it hits you.
A lot of fear is irrational.
Terrified of cockroaches. Terrified of them. Because when she was little, her brother would put her in a box in a chicken coop that was full of roaches. So she's terrified of them, right? But she has the gall to tell me when I run away from a wasp that I'm irrational. Like, at least a cockroach can't freaking sting you.
Well, that's what a lot of fear and anxiety is. It's irrational, but again, like, we didn't go through all these fucked up experiments for nothing. We did learn from them, okay? Yeah. And especially with Harlow's devotion to, learning about, depression and isolation and needs for attachment. The first thing that comes to my mind is, all the kids, especially today, that grow up in fucked up households and everything, the ones that are, left behind or in my case, where you just have such a big family, it's impossible to always get the attention that you need to grow up properly. Which, I mean, I can understand that, I can rationalize that now, but developing, growing up, 13, 14, 15, when my dad remarried, that was hard for me. That was probably the worst depression of my own life. And it was hard to talk to anybody. I couldn't trust any psychologist. I didn't have a voice because I didn't have that connection with people, and you can go online and go onto Tumblr 5 seconds is all it takes to find somebody ranting about something similar to this. So you can really see the long-standing effects, and it blows my mind that today, in the age of the internet, we could not be more stupid about certain information like this. We have access to this information. You can prove yourself right or wrong at any moment. And we don't learn. We don't learn to make shit like this better. Because, with anybody, no matter what goals or views you have in your life, everything starts when you're a child. You got to make sure you develop good if you want to have your best possible, mental health, for the future, So aside from, the fucked up fears and the conditions we went through in high school and stuff like that, because I got a few stories of my own. Ooh, boy, let me tell you. We're shaped by our environment. That's understood. Yeah. It just there's just so much that could go wrong, as I see, with these stories I read. And sorry, I'm still thinking about the masturbating monkey. It's just so out there. But there's so much that can change our lives and so much that can affect us that I think I consider this as a point to just learn to, just be nicer to people. As weird as it is, as a long, connection that is for me, this I see as an example of why we should, pay more attention to our kids and be more conscious about it.
I also completely feel like this whole experiment was completely pointless. There was no need for it, because this should be something that everybody should know.
Well, let's go back to what the point was that we made earlier in the episode.
Back in the day, people thought that was a good idea. But that's the thing. We shouldn't have gotten to that point to begin with, because I feel like logically, of course, kids need their parents to grow up right. You don't need.
But we know that now. Back then, that was not the belief by anybody, even the common household. They believed in limited exposure to your children. So it's not something that's inherently understood. This is something that, is understood through practice. But, like I said, these mothers would freely, they would give up their kids to these nurseries to have limited time with them, to do their other responsibilities and stuff like that. I understand at the time, whenever, everyone's got to work and do their part, you can't always, be affectionate and coddling to everybody. I understand that logistically. But the problem still is it's not something that's inherent in us, and it took these experiments to make that push. It wasn't until, the 80s and 90s when they first started changing, their formula about how we take care of kids. It took, since the 30s to almost the 80s for this change to happen. So you would think now it's common sense. Of course, now it is. But the rhetoric doesn't hold up whenever you compare it to the time, because nobody would have agreed with you back then. Because it's not just something understood. It's something that we had to learn the hard way, which kind of goes back to our episode 2 about the Chicago Tylenol pills, where it took a worst case scenario for people to wake up and learn and do something, because we're not, by design, humans for some reason aren't proactive about shit like this. Don't know why. That just seems to be the case.
Yeah.
But that's really it for the episode. It was a nice little experiment. I like digging into, fucked up things, because psychology for a long time was something that personally interested me. And I've got a few more that we could cover, but obviously not today, not on this episode.
Of course.
But if you guys like this episode, like I said, go ahead and let us know. We have our 6-month special coming up next week. I am super excited. We're going to do something a little bit different. It's not going to change the formula from then on out, but it's just going to have some fun, Yeah. We're going to dig into some bit of internet mysteries and see where we can go with that.
Yep.
So hope you guys can be there to relax and be excited with us, have a little bit of celebration. If there's anything else, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. We love you all, and have a good one. Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Alright, it is recording, but I can edit this part out, so don't worry. Alright, so I'll let it quiet for a second and I'll get started. Hello and welcome, agents and new listeners. If you wish to stay up to date with the latest episodes or any news you might have missed, please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, or consider joining our Facebook page. If you'd like to join in or start in some discussions with other agents, we have a Discord server available to everyone. We also have our episodes up on YouTube, so please consider subscribing and share with your friends. Thank you for your time. Now let's get into this week's case file. Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Files Obscura episode. I know we got a lot going on behind the scenes, but today I hope we have a fun one. We got a story about some monkeys, messed up experiments, and, a lot a lot of maternal questions that I didn't expect to have. Well, I can't say I didn't expect to have. I kind of knew the story, but went deeper than I thought it would. But I try to, keep it vast, keep it open. So we'll see how this one goes, because today this is the first episode where I gave full responsibility to our new researcher. So thank you, Peter, for coming through today. You did a lot of great work with the short time I gave you, so it's very much appreciated. So with this episode today, we are joined by Vlad.
Hello.
And we are joined by Gabs.
Hi.
How are you doing today, guys?
I'm tired, but I'm good.
I'm also tired, but good.
I think that's a common consensus because I am also tired, but good.
Well, it's hard to be more than good when it's raining this hard.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about Houston right now, is that we're going through our hurricane season in 2020 during climate change. Jesus Christ. It is so... what? How many cities around us are already flooded? 3, 4 of them just this morning?
I heard it too, but I'm sure it's more.
Oh no, there are them that are flooded, that are shut down, and then there's that are getting flooded currently, but they have the roads to be fine. Yeah. But it's just... It's not been good, because I don't know if you guys see it, but right outside my place at the moment, it floods super easily right where my mom parks, so it's I can't go anywhere without, getting water all the way up, halfway up my calves, some days when it gets very bad. But, at this point we're just trying to, ride it out, see how we can fare. Hopefully we don't have anything too disastrous coming our way, nothing like Harvey or Ike, so we should be fine. But like I said, today we got an interesting episode. We are covering some fucked up psychology experiments, and of course this took place a long time ago, the 40s, 50s, and 60s, so we will see, how standards have changed, from then to now.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and get into this story about Harry Harlow and his pit of despair. As always, it's tradition that we have 2 truths and a lie for this so for this episode, let's just get right into it. Our first statement today, Harry Harlow, was known for running several experiments with a bunch of infant monkeys where he was first studying maternal attachment, as the leading theory at the time was that, the only idea of attachment only comes from the moments that mother feeds their children. But he would challenge this in many ways, but due to some circumstances, he devolved into studying depression and isolation in these monkeys. Mm-hmm. So his experiments changed drastically. But just kind of summarize that point, he ran a lot of experiments that studied, maternal attachment and isolation and depression. So.
Well, I believe that.
Yeah.
It's
a fucked up medical experiment. Yeah. So, statement number 2. The monkeys, that he used, they were raised without any care. I should elaborate real quick. The monkeys that he used were held in 2 kind of conditions with the surrogate mothers, a wire mother and a cloth mother. Now, the cloth mother was there to provide, comfort and support. Wire mother was there to provide food. He noticed an interesting trend that those who were raised without the cloth mother would be the ones who were raised that were more fearless, more helpless. They didn't know how to take care of themselves. They were the ones that, weren't brave. They were the ones that, cowered behind everything and were huddled in the corner. So this would be one of those moments that he, argued that there's something beyond just food when it comes to maternal attachment and stuff like that. So to kind of just summarize that point, he raised, the monkeys raised without the cloth mother were the ones who were more fearful and helpless.
Okay. I also believe that completely.
Okay.
This is fucked up, but I believe it.
Well, then you might also believe this last one. Because there are some good news in these stories, from time to time. I found one for this guy. Just surprisingly, despite how messed up these monkeys were, as infants, they were able to, not educate it, but, rehabilitate them, to be more functioning. They were always a little off, but they were, with the proper care given to them, they were able to go ahead and develop into more productive members of their monkey group and all that. They were able to reintegrate with their colony and be fine for the most part.
I think that's a lie.
You think that's the lie?
I think that's the lie.
Now, how often have I gotten you with something that simple?
Often.
I think the first one is a lie.
You think the first one's a lie?
Yeah.
That's a surprise.
I think there's no way this story's going to have a happy ending.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well...
Or any happy anything.
You don't think there's going to be any happy ending? Because I'm going to bet money right now. Because I know the story. You sure?
Okay, well, you're giving it away.
Okay,
now.
well,
No, I always mentally mess with them.
Okay, well, first of all, I didn't say... Alright, look. I just think that last statement's a lie. That's
Okay.
all. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I try to dissuade you. Let me try to dissuade you. Why the hell don't you think it's the first one? We're talking about fucked up monkeys right now.
Yeah, we are.
So why wouldn't it be the first one?
It's too close.
It's too close?
It's too into it.
It's too into
it's
it.
too realistic.
Oh, we got two very opposing views on this one right now.
I know Aaron. He's gonna.
Yeah, that's true. Vlad's been with me on almost every single episode. But he's also lost most of these.
Well, not.
No, I went back and I started tallying them. You've lost most of them.
I got
Okay.
the first one right. The
Okay.
first one we're good.
So, you're going to stay with the third one, Vlad?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay with it.
Alright, I'm going to lock you in on that one. Sure you don't want to change your mind?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're going to stick with the first one.
Number uno.
Alright, I'm going to lock you in. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the story then. Let's see who was right and who was wrong. Of course, whenever we do this, it's always good to have a little bit of explanatory information. I try to kind of put this in a timeline, but there's certain facts that just aren't relevant with each other. So I try to write this in a way that I feel would come across the best. So if it gets a little confusing, I apologize. But as he was born, he was originally named Israel. So he was his birth name was Israel Frederick Harlow. He was born on I can't even read my own handwriting sometimes. That's September. He was born on September 31st, 1905, in Fairfield, Iowa, to one Mabel Rock and one Alonzo Harlow Israel. And he was the third of four brothers. I tried to get some more information on the other brothers, see if there was anything notable about them. There wasn't really anything I could find that stood out. So unfortunately, they probably just had normal, blue-collar jobs for the rest of their lives. But Harlow was a guy who stuck out. Harlow, he was an overachiever. There's no two ways to state that, because he would get he would get jobs and positions that allowed him to work in like the Department of Justice and the Department of Health and Human Services and stuff like that. And he would get a lot of prestigious opportunities. And one that stood out to his intelligence would be like whenever he first attended his first college, which was Reed College in Portland, Oregon. He was only there for a year because he was able to take advantage of a very special aptitude test in 1924, which he passed. When he passed it, it allowed him the opportunity to attend Stanford University at the age of 24 without, having to go through any extra hoops like everybody else would have to, tuition fees and stuff like that. I did not expect this part. I didn't know this part whenever I studied this in high school. He originally went in for English, right? But he failed after having disastrous test scores, like 30s and stuff like that in all of his classes, like us. First year, he bombed so hard, he was forced to switch majors. He said it was his choice, but he was forced to switch majors if he wanted to stay in Stanford, to which he changed to psychology. And this is where he would blossom. When he later on became a grad student working under the then famous animal behaviorist Calvin Perry Stone, who, side note, his research was known for adding to the comparative and physiological psychology understanding that we have today. He was particularly interested in the nervous system and glandular mechanics and how that relationship between physiological mechanisms and reproductive behaviors affect us today. Stuff like subconscious responses and how we are driven by, desires and stuff like that. His Freudian psychology class, which that line alone makes me laugh, because Freudians, all but, just debunked in a joke at this point. But his class at Stanford was one of the first comprehensive classes at his time, truly trying to understand psychology and being able to teach it so that way, it's useful, not just kind of soft science that nobody really gave a damn about at the time. But again, it's an emerging science at the time. We don't really know where it could go. We don't know what's right. We don't know what's wrong. So I get it. He would also be working with a vision expert, psychology vision expert named Walter Richard Miles. And a little information about him, because he was a name I hadn't heard before. Some of his studies and developments related to him, were a 2-story rat maze that he made to see how rats process information. He would study the effects of low doses of alcohol on individuals per a period of time, and he also would study the losing motor functions and stuff like that happens with aging adults. So he studied, why adults, would lose their memory, they would lose their core strength and all that, and their ability to process information as they grew older. Also developed the first pair of night vision goggles, I found out. He used red lenses for aviation pilots, which is very close and a second color that we use, because today we use green, as we're able to see more shades of green than any other color. So, little weird tidbit I found, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
So, and all of this was supervised by Lewis Madison Terman, who was also another well-known psychologist of his time. He was a pioneer in educational psychology, and some books, are related to his work, which were used as instructional materials in colleges and stuff like that. Yeah. Like I said, he was a pioneer, like all these other guys were. Harlow would then go on to receive his PhD in 1930, which shortly after Terman would convince Harlow to change his name from Israel to avoid any negative connotations of seemingly Jewish heritage. This is when he switched his name to Harlow. Reason being, if nobody understands the context, this was during the time when America was having its huge push for eugenics. 1930s was actually the inspiration for Hitler to get his eugenics programs going. He took inspiration from us.
Big yikes.
Yeah, big yikes. So with all this going on, talks about, because again, 1930, Hitler is just starting to push for power. He's seen as another foreign leader at this time, but he's not seen as the, bane of all humanity as he is now yet. Mm-hmm. So, that's why we'll talk about Hitler maybe in another episode. But yeah, it's just, I feel like that's just important context to understand why that was made. Because even Peter and I, it wasn't something he grasped on at first. But after he went through this whole process of getting his PhD, he would then go on to complete his doctoral dissertation, which allowed him to be offered a professorship at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which he accepted. Now, this is where he would spend a lot of his work before he would go back to Stanford and do some more work there later on in his life. But the experiments we're talking about today take place here. Where was I at? It's okay, I can edit that out. There he attempted to pursue the Department of Psychology to get adequate laboratory space for his later experiments, but failed. Reason being, nobody really took faith in his experiments, using primates to study behavioral psychology at the time, because this is when, I don't know if you guys know the name, but B.F. Skinner, he pioneered behavioral psychology and stuff like that. Long story short, we are what we continuously do. Our behaviors affect who we are. This is where a lot of the originating ideas of, attachment only comes from the mother feeding the child. That's where a lot of these theories came from at the time. Which even B.F. Skinner and a few other notable psychologists at the time would question Harlow about his work and scrutinize it, but they were actually wrong, that we found out years later. So obviously he failed to get laboratory space, right? So what does he do? He goes down the road and rents a building out, and he gets all of his colleagues and grad students to renovate the place, and they nicknamed it the Primate Laboratory. Which just screams Cold War era MK Ultra stuff to me. I wish I could take a picture of Gabby's face right now, because it's just disgust and shock almost.
It's more... why?
I don't know. I mean, this is the 30s, okay? I won't... Compared to us now, I wouldn't say they're very creative. I'm just saying. Sorry, your face was just funny.
I'm making the kombucha girl face like, huh? No. But...
Oh god, it's so funny. That meme is so good, by the way. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says. But while he's going through, god damn it. Every time you guys make me laugh, I have to take a second to get it all out. I'm good. So.
Problems with being a happy person.
I know. So, as he's going through this whole process, Harlow will, over the course of his experiments, he'll go through two wives. First one being a woman named Clara Mears in 1932 when she was 27. She was originally one of his students, and they wouldn't actually be romantically involved until after, she graduated and all that. So I guess they respected that, what the hell was I about to say? Student-teacher relationship. But another thing that I didn't realize, I actually had to dig a little bit deeper to confirm this fact, but she was one of the very few students, like there was only 3 that had an IQ above 150, which was higher than Harlow's. Yeah, she was smarter than him.
Wow.
They would have 2 children, and they divorced in 1946, and later on that same year, Harlow would go on to marry a woman named Margaret Kewen. She was a child psychologist, which they would then also go have 2 children over the course of 5 years that they were married before she died of cancer. Now this...
What kind?
I don't remember exactly where or what it was, but I believe it was like pancreatic cancer. So, and she was diagnosed before they got together, so he knew. Yeah, there was no surprise.
That explains why you got together after just a year of being divorced.
Yeah, right?
I was thinking about that. I was like, what could have made him jump so fast?
I don't know. I wasn't there for their marriage.
Suspicious.
Maybe she was the other woman for 2 years. I don't know. I didn't look. I found no secret love letters. I thought that would be spicy if I could, but no, I didn't find nothing like that.
I wonder if any of those had anything affected his research in any way or any decisions he decided to make.
You'll be surprised, because there's a long-held belief that what made him change his experiment was because while this marriage part is going on, this is where his experiments will change when he comes back, and I'm actually about to get into that. But this is where people believe that the death of Margaret propelled him into his work even farther. A lot of people believe that he was probably just trying to distract himself with work, but that's not the story I was told in high school. Real quick, after Margaret died, he would also remarry Clara until the day he died. So just a little information about that.
All right.
But no, when it comes back to Margaret, he would actually go through through electroconvulsive therapy and stuff like that. Electroshock therapy, for those who don't understand for some reason. When he was going through these, I don't want to call them treatments because I argue they actually fucked him up more. Because when he came back, they all of his colleagues and everything, they noticed a very sharp change in his demeanor and sharp change in focus. Because this is whenever he changed from focusing on just the maternal attachment aspect and really got more devious with his experiments. Which we're about to dig into that some more. A little clarification for why he did his experiments. Like I said, a lot of people believed at the time that, the only bond that forms between children and their mothers at the time happens between feeding, and it was actually a long-held belief at this time that you shouldn't be attached to your children, that you actually should limit the amount of time children spend with their mothers.
When you say feeding, do you mean nursing specifically?
Not specifically, but that is kind of the bulk of it. Because there's also, you as the child develops and they get more teeth, they still argue that the only times that kids really bond is when they get the things that they need, the water, food, shelter, etc.
Is the quote-unquote logic behind this supposed to be that if a kid doesn't have as much attachment to their mother, they're more likely to survive on their own if needed?
That's part of it. Another part of it was that the mother wouldn't be a distraction for the child, and they wouldn't develop an unhealthy coping mechanism with the mother if they're too close to them. That was why, there was nurseries and stuff where they had limited exposure time with their kids that they just gave birth to,
So basically what they're doing is trying to stop the Oedipus complex.
A little bit. That's what it seems like.
Okay.
But obviously we're going to find out it's totally the wrong way to go about this, and I think it's a big reason that fucked everyone up from this point on, because these kind of nurseries where you had limited exposure were very popular in the United States. So imagine that entire generation that got fucked this way.
I don't have to imagine.
Nah, no, we don't.
We're doing it now, again.
I'm talking to the people who aren't Americans. So, but yes. The idea of giving them limited affection, what was the long-held belief, which, God, every time I say it, it just baffles me that that's the thing. Because you compare it to now, we have all the evidence now that says, "What are you doing? You are a madman." But at the time, they didn't know that. They honestly, truly believed this. Like I said, it centered more around physical needs, specifically, like I said, food, shelter, and water. Just so that way you have the very basic necessities to survive, like any animal would. as quote-unquote at-the-time experts believe that the bond between mother and child centered around the feeding time specifically. But when Harlow would run his experiments with John Bowlby and Benjamin Spock, two of his assistants, which I love those names, by the way, as gaseous...
Live long and clip, 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 slip, 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 clip, 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 slip, slip.
For those who have never watched Jimmy Neutron...
Or Star Trek.
Or Star Trek.
Yeah.
I'd be more inclined to believe they've seen Star Trek than Jimmy Neutron.
Why?
Because Star Trek has been on since before we were born.
Okay, but Jimmy Neutron's more contemporary.
Yeah, exactly. People from our generation wouldn't necessarily have watched
Fair
Star
enough.
Trek unless their parents were into it.
That would be my case, because my dad was super into it.
My dad was also super into it.
Yeah, that being said, Star Trek is... it's probably more popular than Jimmy Neutron, just in general.
Just with how long it's been on.
Yeah, how long it's been
And
on.
plus, Jimmy Neutron's a kid's show, so you only really like it for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I'd still go
Lifetime.
back and watch it.
No.
Oh, God, no.
I would never.
Jimmy Neutron was my shit, man.
I'll make the Carl Weezer jokes and the Bowlby jokes,
Oh,
but
God.
I'm out anywhere else.
Oh, God. Now I just got the slap, slap, slap in my head.
Slip, slip, slip,
Ugh.
clip, clip, clip.
But with the help of his assistants,
Were we talking about fucked up monkeys?
yes, we're talking about fucked up monkeys.
Alright, just
Hey, there's no difference between fucked up monkeys and Jimmy Neutron.
That's a fair point.
Same thing.
Anyways, so like I said, with the help of John Bowlby and Benjamin Spock, Harlow would shatter this belief. When it came to his research, those helping Harlow noticed, like I said, his change in demeanor after the death of Margaret. He would go ahead and get the electroconvulsive therapy treatment, like I said, and when he returned to work, his focus switched from maternal attachment to the isolation and depression. Some believed that, like I said, his distraction was that his work was just a distraction. But when I was told this story in school and was, doing my research on it, the specific reasoning I was told was that he became fascinated with the question of what is love. And cue the Hadaway music.
Okay.
I wish I could. I wish I could.
In a Hallmark movie?
No.
I didn't sign up for Hallmark movies.
This is a very fucked up version of a Hallmark movie, because his idea of what is love is not trying to, embrace the better aspects of it, but trying to break it down into quantitative material. As weird as that sounds, but he wanted to be able to understand it in a logical capacity. And in, I guess, this line of reasoning, as I was told in high school from my teachers and everything, was that you go down to zero. You go down to the idea of having absolutely no love, and then you work from there, thus leading to the fucked up ideas he came up with to test this.
If I were a meme right now, I'd be that meme where, like, you're just looking at somebody and it's like, I wonder what's happening behind their eyes, and inside my head it's dun dun dun, 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 dun. What is love? Dun, dun, dun,
Oh,
dun,
God.
See, when you were talking about...
baby, don't
I love that
let
meme,
me.
by the way. That meme is so good. It's like, oh wow, it's such a cute girl. I wonder what she's listening to. And then my favorite is like the Doom Eternal soundtrack.
Yeah. No. It's the
It's
Inside
Inside Out. Inside
yeah,
Out.
The Inside Out commercials.
Yeah.
Do you ever just look at someone and wonder what's going on inside their head?
Oh, I remember now. Sorry, I was thinking back to the older, just shitpost meme where it's the girl on the subway train. But fucking hell.
We're talking about the quantitative...
I know. It's just she makes me laugh, and I'm glad she's here for this because I needed it. Because it gets darker. It gets so dark. So when asked about his experiments, he was quoted with saying this: "The only thing I care about is whether a monkey will turn a property I can publish. I don't have any love for them. I just have no feelings for them at all." Which I think goes pretty far when I tell you what he did. Because his reasoning was as followed, quote, "If my work will save 1 million human children, I can't get overly concerned about 10 monkeys," unquote. Which, I'll be honest, objectively, I understand that reasoning. I get it, and it's not what I'm going to question. It's just baffling, It's I don't understand how somebody can just go so far and not have, any genuine amount of care for living things when they do this. But after a certain point when you're researching, you got to be able to remove yourself. And I get that. It's just, it's hard for me to put myself in his shoes, I guess. Harlow, to accomplish his experiments, he would establish his own breeding colony of rhesus macaque monkeys because of their abundant population. He did this in 1932 as he needed access to infant primates regularly, which that term alone is terrifying. That I imagine him every day or so. I was like, hey, I need a new monkey. Go to the breeding cage. That's when you see some of the pictures of the laboratory and everything. That's the kind of feeling you get. He would raise them in a nursery setting rather than with their mothers, which also many people argued affected the results because they weren't raised in a traditional loving setting to be a control group. That's the word I was looking for. So from the start, he kind of fucked over his own experiments, but they would go far to show a lot of basic understanding of child development. Whenever he was focused on the maternal bonding, his experiments involved infant monkeys being placed in a box with 2 surrogate mothers. Mm-hmm. One mother was a wire rack that was given the food and everything, so that way they would have to go to her to survive. And then they had the other one that was wrapped in a soft, warm cloth. The main test had the wire mother be given the food, water, or whatever necessary items that they needed, but the cloth mother did not. The wire mother would typically be connected to a device that would either blow cold air, have spikes, or even give a minor electric shock as to scare the monkeys. Variations would see the monkey in the box with only one mother given no choice. So they would change it up. Sometimes they'd be given only the wire mother or the cloth mother. And just to see some variation, see how they would react in different environments. The monkeys would only go to the wire mother for nourishment, but would stay with the cloth mother for comfort and support. In one experiment where there was only the cloth mother present, researchers added the scare device to the cloth mother to dissuade the infants. However, in practice, the monkeys will latch on even harder to the cloth mother instead of running away, even whenever they're getting electrocuted, even whenever they're getting cold air blasted in their face. They would just tighten their grip because they didn't want to let go. Mm. But obviously this did not happen with the wire mother. As soon as it happened, they got off. Later on, these experiments would involve to include a scare encounter, often being a moving teddy bear smacking drums. Those with the cloth mother were noted being much more brave, either touching, attacking, or just observing the toy. If they were scared, they would cling onto the mother for a moment before being curious again. Those with the wire mother reacted far worse. They were seen curling up into a fetal position in the corner. They were seen sucking their thumbs and even screaming wildly in fear, running around their cage. They didn't know how to handle anything. Yeah. Some,
I don't think I could make any jokes about that.
No. Yeah. And it gets worse. This is the light stuff. He would expand his experiments and study a variety of responses, but in all of his experiments, he probably has only one monkey that had a great time. In all of this, there's only one monkey that had a great time. What he did was to expand the idea of attachment theory and how this evolves into sexual reproduction and stuff like that. He took a monkey, probed their brain, and connected these probes to a remote control. Now, the probes were sent into the sexual response part of the brain, and he gave the monkey the control. Now, can you guess what the monkey did?
Did he fuck himself to death?
He electrically fucked himself to death. He gave himself probably 3,000 orgasms every hour until he died. He was noted for also avoiding food to just press the button. Look, I'll be honest.
Same.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be honest. If I was given that option, I'd probably do the same.
I don't.
You can't deny you'd probably do it too.
Right? Come on. If I had a button to just orgasm, a literal button, I'd do it. I don't care. It's like, hey, I'm kind of depressed today. I could use some dopamine. Push.
I would do it out of spite. I would do it to make people mad. Don't push the button.
Just
oh.
This is awful. I know.
It's horrible. I know. I know. But out of all the monkeys, he got the best opportunity.
I guess.
Look.
Why? Because he died faster?
He died having a good time. Okay? The rest of these monkeys did not have a good time.
I don't know what point this man was trying to make by...
Did he make one?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's like, what if... Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I know, but Jesus Christ.
Let me make a point against just because you can doesn't mean you should. All right, ready? Science.
I guess.
That's the whole point of science. Is just because you can doesn't mean you should. Well, I'm gonna do it anyways.
It's just a moment. It's just an excuse to like, hey, let's see what happens. So that's half of science. But
could you imagine just like, all right, intern, you stay and watch that monkey with the button. I'm gonna go home and go to sleep. And then when he comes back in the morning and the monkey's dead, he's just like, what happened? And the poor intern sitting in a corner, fetal position, shaking back and forth. He wouldn't stop pressing the button.
I really want to know what. Like, here's the question though. What did he think was gonna? You give a monkey that much power?
I don't. Well, because honestly, look, that bit of information was very hard for me to like confirm that it actually happened. Not something I just pulled out of my ass. But I could not find any like definitive answers explaining why.
It just sounds like a really fucked up Onion article. I don't.
It does.
It really does. I could agree with that one. But yeah, like I said, he was the only monkey that really seemed to have a good time during all of this. Because it only gets downhill. Like I said, after his second wife Margaret died, he would go on with the help of one Stephen Suomi. I almost said Stefan for some reason, but it's Stephen. With his help, they would make a device that they would call the Pit of Despair. Now, this was a vertical chamber, an upside-down pyramid, if you would, that these baby monkeys would be placed in and have a wire mesh grate put on top of it, so that way they wouldn't be able to climb out. Now, even when they tried to climb up the sides of the walls, they would just slump back in because there's no grip or anything for them to latch onto. The only interaction that they would have would be the hands of the researchers that were giving them the food, water, or just change their beddings. So they had no contact with anybody, no social skills, nothing to help them. So they were noted like the first 2 days they would be seen trying to climb so feverishly trying to get out of these pits, but after a couple of days they just gave up. They would slump in the corner and just not move. They wouldn't interact with anything. They would eat and sleep like they had to, but they just wouldn't do anything.
Sounds like me in college.
Sounds like most people in college, honestly. There were three sets of monkeys to set up for this experiment, 4 in each one. 4 were set in for 30 days, 4 were set in for 6 months, and 4 were set in for an entire year. So you can imagine how they're going to get progressively worse.
Yeah.
When they pulled the first ones out, the 30 days in captivity, these monkeys barely moved, explored, or played. And they became incapable of having any sexual relations whenever they grew up. But they were still somewhat able to interact with people. You know, they were still somewhat able to interact with the other monkeys, but you could tell they were very different. They were off. They were a little more violent or just not interested in anything. They were bullied by other monkeys, and 2 would starve themselves with death. 2 of the 4 would starve themselves to death.